Radio.
Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the South Bank podcast. I'm joined by Jacob Jones.
Hello,
We
everyone.
are here. We are here to talk about a very disappointing Tuesday evening. Wolves losing 2-1 at home to Fulham. This game followed up a brilliant win at the weekend, really, it has to be said, against Bournemouth, who, despite having 10 men, are a very hard team to play. Not many teams have beaten them at home. Arsenal, City all losing there this season, but the mighty Wolves have not lost there since 2015. So easy for us, right?
Yeah, most Wolves fashion beat the team that you probably went into the game not expecting much, and then host an out of form Fulham and make it quite easy for them to come away with 3 points, which was the most disappointing part.
Yeah, I do have to agree. I think Wolves really lacked ideas, they lacked creativity, and they lacked intensity on Tuesday night. But let's go by the game as it went. It's not going to take us very long to get to our first talking point, 58 seconds to be exact, when most people might not have even been out from the turnstiles. People might not have even been in their seats. Fulham were already 1-0 ahead. Ryan Sessegnon, a man who always seemed to score against us. Even when I went away to Fulham in the Championship, he scored against us. Back at Fulham, back at his boyhood club, and scoring his first goal in over 2 years in the Premier League. And it has to come against Wolves. Jacob, what did you think about this goal?
Yeah, so before I touch on the goal, there's just a bit of a side point I want to bring up. Obviously, we were sat in the Billy Wright yesterday, as per usual, and there's a bit of an issue the last few games with turnstiles you mentioned, where only one is being opened currently in the right segment of the Billy Wright lower, and it's not obviously the steward's fault. Obviously, we voiced our frustrations towards them, but it's not their fault. But if anyone at the club is watching at this current time, I do believe that it needs to be said that we need to have more than one open because it's such a hold-up and fans are turning up early before the game and risking not being able to get in the ground. But yeah, on towards the game, 58 seconds in, I don't think we touched the ball yet, had we?
No.
Sessegnon finding it far too easy to get past Doherty on that side with his pace. I don't know where Semedo is in terms of support. But yeah, they worked the overload on that left-hand side and immediately their goal up. And it was one of them goals where you could see it 10 seconds before it went in. As soon as he took that touch and encroached into the box, you knew it's ended up in the back of the net. Really disappointing start. Just not coming out the blocks, and that overload, I only worked for one goal, but it was working all night, very efficient for Fulham. It was their main source of attack, that overload down that left-hand side, wasn't it?
Yeah, definitely. Even on the right-hand side, in some occasions, they just love to have their fullbacks overlap their wingers, and it was just causing us so many problems, especially when those two can push up, and then you have the likes of Lukic coming in to fill in the void at fullback then. So they were really overloading those wing areas to attack Wolves, and it just worked perfectly for them. Honestly, a very routine night for the Whites, but we just should have done a lot better. I don't know how many times we've said this season that Wolves start halves poorly. Usually it's within the first 10 minutes we can see, not the first minute. I do think that was quite shameful. Like you said, with the turnstile issues, a lot of fans unable to get to their seats. They're probably quite lucky. Although then they probably look at the scoreline after about 20 minutes and realise, oh, wait, we were 1-0 down. Not very good. Wolves' next opportunity, and first opportunity, was actually a free kick. It was deflected. Not the best free kick. We had quite a few free kick opportunities for Cunha throughout the 90, and a lot of these just were either terrible attempts or easy for the keeper to gather. And it seemed to me every time Matheus Cunha was about to break into that box where we know he's so lethal, and Fulham know he's so lethal, as they saw at Craven Cottage in the reverse fixture. But they really didn't want to let him get anywhere near the goal, really. They just took him out whenever he got on the edge of that box, knowing that his free kicks weren't up to scratch, really, it felt like to me, Jacob. I'm not sure if you agree.
Yeah, and a lot of free kicks last night, but I have to say that a lot of that was due to the referee, Peter Banks. I thought was absolutely awful.
Yeah.
And I hate to keep digging out referees, but how Issa Diop was not on a yellow card in at least the first 20 minutes alone. About 4 fouls we counted that could have been yellow cards. Booking Santi for first, which is a yellow card challenge, don't get me wrong, but where's the consistency? There was Diop Anderson should have been in the book as well. Really, really poor refereeing. But when we got those free kicks, it was so routine, so just, well, lack of routine, sorry. Just hit and hope, and it's just not working at the minute. We need to really find something new to do with these free kicks, or someone new to take them who isn't Mateus Cunha. I know Bellegarde took one in the second half, which was equally as depressing. But yeah, but overall, the free kick signalled what was not a bad response to going a goal down from Wolves, to be fair. While we were chasing the game, it became a bit somber, obviously, once we got the equaliser. I'm sure we'll talk more in depth about chances we had in the first half in the upcoming minutes. But yeah, those first few minutes after going 1-0 behind, I thought we pushed up the door a bit and shown a bit of something. It was probably our best spell of the game.
Yeah, I would probably agree. We did pile on the early pressure after that Fulham goal. There was a João Gomez chance, which he really should have buried. Bellegarde, there was a mess of bodies edge of the penalty area, and then he gets the ball. Just some nice work to put in a good cross. A sign of things to come for the goal we scored in this game. But João Gomez eventually falls to him and he skies it. The amount of chances we've seen this Wolves squad have, especially this season, where it feels like it's a cross coming into the box or something along those lines every time, and it falls to the feet of someone to tap it home, and it goes blazing over the crossbar into row Z of the North Bank. And I've just seen that far too many times, as I'm sure you'll agree. But it was a sign of things to come, and Wolves did get their goal, and it was João Gomez from a Bellegarde cross. It was just great work from Mike Nouri previously. Nice little through the legs pass to Bellegarde, who then puts in a brilliant cross with his weaker foot into the box. And it falls to Semedo, who I'm not sure if he meant to do this. I doubt it. He somehow backheels it to João Gomez, who just smashes it into the roof of the net, and Wolves were level. Jacob, talk us through this goal.
I mean, yeah, an absolutely fantastic goal and the highlight of the game, really, because there wasn't much more to pick from. But yeah, Aït-Nouri, we know how good he is on the ball. You open your legs like that around him, he's going to make you look silly. And that's exactly what he did, playing it through to our friend Joshua Brooks, who is finding real form at the minute and a fantastic ball in, greeted by an equally a good finish, which making up for the one he should have scored earlier, Gomez. And, you know, I really thought we'd push on after this goal, which is a disappointing part. After such a good goal, after such brilliant play, I thought the fans would pick up, which the fans were, that was as quiet as I've known Molineux be for quite a while last night. I think the fact that Fulham probably brought a taxi worth of fans and could probably be heard more often than the Wolves fans was really testament to just how quiet it was in the Molineux yesterday. But we didn't have much to shout about, did we? But back to the goal, yeah, fantastically well worked goal, and that's what we want to see more of. We want to see our fullbacks piling on the pressure when we're behind, stuff like that. But we just stopped once we got back, didn't we, Cameron?
Yeah, I feel like when we got it all square, the intensity just kind of petered out, really. I feel like the fans then woke up a bit, but the players kind of went back to sleep. And then I feel like in the second half, it was rather the opposite, where the players were waking up, the fans were suddenly, the atmosphere had dissipated. But it was a good goal. My next talking point was to be the refereeing. I know you've already mentioned that earlier, but it just was an all-round poor performance. There were so many bookings that should have been thrown out in that first half. Maybe a couple more our way too, but Fulham should have had at least 3, I'm sure. And I just really don't understand why he was calling for so many fouls, but no cards were shown. And I really think that contributed to it being such a boring game of football, because it was a very stop-start at times, and there wasn't many clear just passages of play. Lots of throw-ins, lots of time wasting from Fulham, may I add, all throughout this game. And it just really felt like Wolves never got going. And all that momentum from the previous fixtures just seemed to have petered out. I do think, on one hand, though, partially this is down to team selection. That whole starting 11 was unchanged from the weekend win against Bournemouth, and you could really see it in the pitch. They all looked very tired. And by the end of the second half, some of them could barely walk. Manetzi, I've liked him since he came in. I don't think that was the game for him at all yesterday. He just was not good enough in any regard, really, personally. And I was disappointed when he came on, or didn't come off, sorry, in the second half, and Jean-Luc Bellegarde did, because Bellegarde has upped his form recently and has become oddly consistent. I'm sorry, Jean-Luc Bellegarde, for everything I said about you in the first half of this season. But yeah, just didn't amount to much. I think the highlight of the first half after that was probably Raul coming on to warm up, and he got applause from the North Bank and the Billy Wright fans, who all clapped Raul Jimenez. Raul Jimenez collapsed back, and good crack from Calvin Massey. You've gone up in my ratings, because he immediately pulls down his snood, looks at the Wolves fans and starts going to the side, applauding all of them, acting as if the applause is for him. I did find that rather humorous, as I'm sure you did, Jacob.
Yeah, good banter from Calvin Bassey there. Just a little something that cheered us up a bit on what's quite a dull night. What kind of weird parallel universe are we living in, where Cameron Gorman is annoyed about Jean-Luc Bellegarde being subbed off, not subbed on? But yeah, Manetzi you hit the nail on the head with fatigue. We all said in the ground. None more so than Manetzi, who plays at such a pace and such a tempo and in a new position, let's add as well, somewhere he's used to playing. Playing 90 minutes when he was really struggling yesterday. He really struggled to create, and let's just hope it's Vito's thinking was that we've got a cup game on Saturday. Manetzi maybe won't appear there, maybe if he does in a cameo. But yeah, not the game for Marshall at all. Wouldn't have minded seeing someone a bit more of a ball player like Sarabia come into that line there and play with Cunha. But yeah, he's not. Don't want to seem like I'm digging out Manetzi. I have been impressed with him, even though some of social media seems to have not been so far, which I was quite surprised to see when reading a lot of things this morning. I think a fair bit more toxicity than I thought there would be on social media, because I thought, as disappointed as yesterday was, it wasn't a tragedy by any means. I thought we were just poor. We weren't at the races. I don't think it's warranted, the toxicity I've seen while waking up this morning. But yeah, very leggy performance. I thought Santi Bueno looked leggy as well. I think he's the one that stood out of really. He's slow in the best of times, but really sluggish. Probably may have been lucky to stay on the pitch at times. He was committing so many little fouls, granted, but fouls nonetheless when he was already on a yellow card, where it felt like at any minute he could be sent off. Lucky that he had to have what I'll go on to later with my standouts, Totti and Doherty next to him, I think.
Yeah, definitely agree with the Doherty standout, but I'll come back to that later on. Yeah, I just don't think we were at the races at all, really. Very fatigued performance, like you said. But after that, the only real highlight of the first half remaining was there was one nice turn in the middle of the park from Jean-Luc Bellegarde, who played Cunha through. And Cunha got a nice Megs, and then a chip over Leno, tipped over the crossbar, but he never really looked like scoring that chance, I don't think. It was quite a tough one to take. Fulham had a few chances on the break with the pace of that man, Adama Traore. who then did come back to haunt us in the second half. And once again, in this game, for the second time, Wolves concede in under a minute of the half starting. To let it happen once is one thing. Sure, you're not awake, you're not focused. But to have it happen again in the same match in the second half is absolutely terrible. And I dread to think what was said at half time. And even then, it's probably not Vitor's fault, in fairness. Only the players on the pitch cannot be concentrating at the start of that second half. And it was just very disappointing to see. Adama on the left-hand side, just one through ball up to Rodrigo Muniz, who comes to fill the pocket that Semedo and Doherty created by pushing up slightly to start the half. And one touch, Jose Sarr, who is bizarrely off his line by quite some distance, caught in no man's land. Easy chip for Muniz and into the goal to send the very few Fulham fans attending into rapture. But Jacob, what did you think about that goal and just how poor it was?
Yeah, the first time was so nice. We had to do it twice, didn't we? So, yeah. One thing that did impress me about Adama yesterday was his passing range. He seems to have got a lot better since coming to Fulham. There was one in the first half where he played in, might have been Sessegnon with a great ball, but he couldn't quite convert. But yeah, how do you, once, like you say, you've switched off, but twice, wow. Don't know why Sarr's rushing out so much. I think there's a few more yards before Muniz would have had the shot if he weren't rushing out. Not to take away from the finish, I think it's a fantastic chip from Rodrigo Muniz, but such a poor goal conceded so early on in the half. And the only time Fulham really broke the line, aside from one later with a man we're very familiar with, where it almost happened again. But that was due to a change in system. I'm not even going to knock us for that one, but this one is awful. What an incredibly poor goal to concede, and then you're on the back foot for the rest of the half. And this time there wasn't that fight. This time there wasn't that putting Fulham under pressure. It was very much a confused Wolves team. It looked almost like a Gary O'Neill performance where they're just out of ideas and just passing the ball sideways and backwards, not making any progress with it. Just really felt like a Gary O'Neill game again.
I've got to say you hit the nail on the head there personally. It really did feel like we were watching Gazaball yesterday. Just a complete lack of creativity from the squad. Like you said, there was quite a lack of hunger after going a goal down in the second half. And I thought it was just disappointing because, like, it's a Tuesday night. I get you're tired. I get you've just played the weekend. But these fans have come to watch Wolves play football. We had all of the ball, it felt like, in that second half. We had almost all the possession, but that was because Fulham were happy to let us have it. We did nothing with it. There was no creativity. There wasn't a spark. There was very few moments. Cunha looked very off it, and it was like him being off it meant the rest of the team just immediately were off it too. And I hate to say it, I think it showed exactly just how much we rely on him, as if it wasn't apparent enough already. But yeah, just not good enough. I think Jose Sarr just absolutely has to improve in his decision making. There's been so many times we've said that this season, and in the past few seasons, even since he's come in, it's just seemed to have been downhill since that brilliant first season he had at Molineux. But I was seeing a lot of hate for him on social media after the game. Some of it warranted, some of it a bit too far. Most people have agreed for quite a long time that we do need another goalkeeper. I'm sure you'd agree with that, Jacob, because Sam Johnstone was never going to be that guy. The club seemed to think bringing him in would solve the goalkeeping issue, but we're going to be back in the market for another keeper in the summer, surely.
Yeah, well, we have to be, because quite frankly, Sarr on his day is brilliant, as we know, but Sarr off his day is woeful. As we saw yesterday, it's in the duality of Sarr only this week after really good performance at Anfield, another good performance at the Vitality, making a few decent saves. last night, really poor. Not even just for the goal, his distribution again, kicking terrible. But yeah, problem is, who do you go for? What goalkeepers are out there currently who you bring in? I don't know. We've seen Patterson be linked in other months, but he is nowhere near it, as we
No,
saw on the weekend, when he's dropping the ball into his net. I can't think any of the teams going down have a keeper that I'd take either.
no.
Maybe Ramsdale, but I don't think I'd take Ramsdale either. I don't think he's as good as people like to make up, and he has the relegation curse, doesn't he?
Yeah.
So yeah, but goalkeeper's definitely a position you have to be looking to strengthen in the summer. Uh, Particularly if Johnson's going to leave, which he should because he's a waste of a signing. You then back to Bentley and Sarr. Not good, is it?
No, John Stone, completely useless. What a waste of money from the club. It just really irritates me how the club say they've got no money, that there's a lack of signings, and then they spent what 60 million on John Stone. Palace absolutely must have been laughing when they received that offer because they've robbed us blind. He's just a terrible keeper, as Wolves fans were aware from his former employers. But that's just the name of the game, isn't it? There really wasn't much to write home about in this second half. Cunha had one chance where Zhao won it back, played Cunha through, but he hits it over the bar. Bellegarde had a free kick where he hit the wall and then straight into the keeper's arms from the rebound. A Cunha shot from a Semedo cross easily saved. And then Strand Larsen came on for Jean-Luc Bellegarde, a substitution which I don't completely agree with. I do think Jurgen Strand Larsen was the man to come on in this game. I do think he could have made more of a difference because watching the game up till that point, I felt it was a very physical contest, which I'm sure you'll agree with. Lots of challenges, fouls going in, and I just thought he might do a bit better with the hold-up play with some of the players on that pitch. But Jean-Luc Bellegarde coming off, I know we mentioned this briefly earlier, but I think it should have been Menezes. He looked very off it. He looked very tired with the role he plays in the squad. I'm not sure if you have anything to dispute here.
So yeah, for me, Strand Larsen, as much as I wanted to love him when he first came in, has left a lot to be desired for me in his Wolves career so far. I think, yeah, give him a chance in front of goal, he might score it. But I think for a big lad, he's just not there physically. Don't know what it is. I mean, did he win a single ball last night? I remember he held up one, I think, when he first came on, and I went, oh, Jesus Christ, fair enough. And then just ghosted. I know he's just coming back from injury, so don't want to be too harsh on the lad, but really just you should be right in this scenario. You should be where you bring the big man on, you get him to put his body about, but he just doesn't have that in a minute. Whether it's acclimatizing to the league still, and yeah, taking Bellegarde off, who was our creative spark again, shielding the ball fantastically at times last night, and you know, really looking like if anyone's going to do something, it might be him. I don't agree. And Menezes was tanked from the get-go and ran into the ground last night, and really you could see that from his sloppiness and just his urgency wasn't there. That's been there in the other 3 games that he's played for Wolves.
Yeah, I completely agree. I wasn't sure whether to even bothering to mention this, but Carlos Forbes, he is fit. Why aren't we seeing him? I don't, like you said at the ground yesterday, we'll probably never see him in a Wolves shirt again. He seems to be the forgotten man at Molineux. Absolute waste of money there as well to pay for that loan from Ajax, which we aren't even going to make permanent. And watch, he'll probably go on and become a world beater after this in his career.
It's a
Knowing,
massive shame, isn't it? Because when he has played, despite looking raw,
raw, yeah,
a talented footballer when he has played. But what was the point? You might as well have kept Chiquinho on the books as someone and not paid money
yeah,
for value if you're not going to play him. I just
I
don't.
completely agree. Chiquinho was a player who always looked to have a really good spark, obviously, like Carlos Forbes, both very raw wingers, young talents. who are yet to harness their potential. But you can see the footballing ability in there. And it was really disappointing to see Carlos Force not get much game time after his move, because most Wolves fans, I think, will have heard of him before, coming through City's youth academy, having West Ham interested in him previously, and then playing for a club like Ajax. I was quite excited for that signing when we made it. I was very much hoping he would bring a lot of life to the Wolves attack with his pace, but just hasn't happened for him. And he'll probably go on to be a case of Vitinha syndrome, knowing our luck. But yeah, just too little too late. I think we're really missing the injuries, being namely Guedes. I think he would have made such a difference yesterday. I think honestly, even Hwang, I think could have made a difference. Like you said, Rodrigo Gomez, the biggest miss, I think, because of not only his versatility, but his attacking prowess. And then Agbadou goes without saying, just an absolute monster at the back. Really has become almost captain in that defence in itself. You can see exactly why he was the captain of his former club, always bossing orders, always keeping the defence in line, and just really commanding that back line. But yeah, we can't put it all down to injuries, because I think that game was still there for the taking yesterday, and I think it's very much a game we should have got something from on paper, because Fulham didn't really turn up themselves. You can see why they're out of form, but we made it very easy for them, and we'll probably give them that boost they need to knock on the door for the European spots, which they're still in contention for, with the only being 5 points between 10th and 3rd, I think it is, which is utterly crazy for this stage of the season. But yeah, I really think we're just missing the injuries. We need them back. Agbadou not being back for a while is just a huge loss. About 3 more weeks of no Agbadou. I just feel like I'm in purgatory.
Yeah, thankfully we have relatively favourable games through them, and one of them's a cup game. So, I mean, he misses Bournemouth in the cup, Southampton away, which, no disrespect to Southampton, if you can't beat Southampton away, then you don't belong in this division. And then who is it after that? Everton at home, which is a tough game.
Yeah, very tough game.
The one that's tough. But yeah, obviously injuries happen to any football club. We can't sit and moan about it. If have injuries, our main competitors, any team in the division is going to have injuries. It's how you adapt. And last night we didn't adapt well. Last night we looked devoid of ideas, and Nathan Judah echoed what you said on Twitter last night. It's a shame that Fulham only had to be average to win at Molineux yesterday.
I completely agree with his verdicts. Fulham, you can really see that they were an out of form side on that pitch. They weren't playing like favourites. They weren't playing really like winners either, I thought. They just kind of went through the motions and it worked out for them. But Marco Silva and the Fulham fans will be happy to kind of avenge what happened at Craven Cottage earlier in the season, because that was a game that none of us expected at the time. Gary O'Neill didn't really deserve that win. And it was against a 10-man Fulham who I'm sure would have felt infuriated about how that defeat came about for them, and became such an embarrassing scoreline as it was at the time. But yeah, it's over now. And thank God, because I don't think I could have sat at Molineux much longer. It was a very boring night. But Jacob, do you have any standouts regarding this?
I think Doherty and Andre are the two that really stand out for me. I think Andre has really found his feet, hasn't he, in the last few weeks?
Yeah.
Been fantastic. Climbing top again. Wouldn't have took him off. Would have rather seen him and Nexty go off, like you're saying, maybe dropping up a person into midfield like a Doyle. Thought Bellegarde was decent. I was obviously miles ahead of how he started the season still, so I put him in there. I thought Totti first half very, very solid, but dealt with Adama Traore very well. not as great in the second half. A few wayward passes, didn't link up with Aït-Nouri as well. Struggled with the switch of sides with Adama, which is you'd think you'd do better in the second half when it's not Adama Traore running at you. But he seemed to almost back down from the challenge in the second half. But probably, yeah, if I was to put a podium, I'd probably go Andre first, Doherty second, Totti third.
I'd probably say Doherty was my standout yesterday. For me, he's got to be top of that podium. I thought he was just incredibly reliable, incredibly consistent. While he was arguably caught out by Sessegnon with his pace for that first goal, I think Semedo is also to blame there. He pushes quite high up when we don't even have the ball and haven't touched the ball yet in that game. But Doherty, whenever asked upon, he was there, often filling in for positions in midfield. Semedo at wing back, and I just thought he was everywhere. Really, it felt everything we did went through him yesterday. And while we've given Doc his flowers recently and said how incredibly consistent he's been, I think that also, unfortunately, shows a lack of creativity in the rest of the team when it's your backup right back who is now playing centre back, who is your most creative outlet in the team. But I'm not here to slate Doc. We all have love and time for him. Absolute legend he is. I would say Jean-Luc Bellegarde was also up there, but Andre second for me. He was just phenomenal. I wouldn't have took him off either. His passing range is sublime. He shields the ball so well. He shows so much fight. Speaking of which, his little bust up with Adama Traore proved particularly humorous to me. I don't know why he backs himself in a scrap against the baby oil merchant.
He didn't he? He kind of got up and realised who he was doing it to, and just kind of tried to walk past, and that like nothing happened.
Yeah, it didn't look like he could make eye contact with him after he realised who he'd squared up to. But I do love the fight and the passion Andre shows. I completely want to echo your point of him finding his feet at Molineux very recently, and he's just proved to be incredibly consistent these past few weeks. And I'm not sure if it's just that he happens to always be the sacrifice substitute in the manager's eyes, or it's a fitness issue. But it's disappointing to me that he doesn't always get the full 90, because I think he's one of the few who deserve it. Bellegarde, I thought when he went off, we lacked a spark. We lacked creativity. He put in some very nice balls into the box, filling up great pockets of space, and honestly some very nice on the ball work from him, which we haven't seen as much recently. Some nice turns and Megses and stuff like that, the little things that you notice. Totti, I thought, like you said, did very well to deal with Adama. It's as if he's just memorized Adama's whole skill set from the amount of years he's played together with him. And seemingly locked him down and struggled when it wasn't Adama, which you'd expect to be the other way around, like you said. But yeah, just there wasn't a lot to write home about really yesterday. None of the attackers deserve a look in, and it's only really the defensive players for saying deserve a shout. But it's back to Bournemouth, back to the vitality, and back in the FA Cup for Wolves' next fixture. Yeah, an excellent win, like we said, on Saturday away. Do we see it going the same way this time, Jacob?
No. Simply put, I don't think Bournemouth will be as poor as they were in that Premier League. I think had we have got a result last night and drawn ourselves, would have been 8 points adrift if we'd have won last night. Maybe we'd have a bit more of a focus on the cup, but I do not think Vitor's going to put out the strongest side possible. Whereas I think Bournemouth will take the cup seriously. I think they're in a position where they can take the cup seriously. So I'm not I really want to win, because I'm 60-70% positive that we are going to stay up now. Knowing our luck, Ipswich will go and do over Man United tonight. I know it's squeaky bum ourselves. But I don't see it. If I was to put a prediction, I'd probably say 2-1 Bournemouth.
Yeah, I'd probably echo something like that. I feel like Bournemouth are going to come out with a bit of a vengeance after Saturday's performance. I remember saying in our preview to the Bournemouth game for all our listeners, I remember saying, I do think we will win either the FA Cup or the Premier League match, but not both. And obviously having won that in the manner we did against a 10-man Bournemouth, Savani still suspended for this fixture, may I add. I just don't think they're going to be as silly. They're going to know how we're going to set up now. And when you have a manager like Iraola, he will use every little detail against you that was successful against him the first time round. I do see Vitor, like you said, fielding a much weaker side, given we have some big fixtures coming up. Though I'm just not too confident. Like you said, Bournemouth can take the cup seriously. They don't have to worry about going down. Their biggest concern is how are they going to get to Europe? And what better way to do it than winning a cup competition, which, may I add, this year, most of the big fish are out of the pond. There's a lot of good opportunities for a cup run for any of the teams left in there, and they all have reasonable shouts. Man City and Newcastle probably being the biggest threats, I would say, in that draw. They're the away fixtures you would not want if you were progressing into the quarterfinals. But apart from that, I think every fixture is winnable there. And I say that not just for us, but for every team left in that cup. I think it could go any way this year. And I think it's exciting to see that competition. Wolves, we fans love an FA Cup run, despite all the traumatic memories it's left us with. And I did want one, but we all have to agree survival in the Premier League is the priority. And I would much rather get knocked out the cup to Bournemouth, not get to the quarters, than have Ipswich breathing down our necks till the last day while we care more about our cup run, however late we get into it, and let them catch us up.
Yeah.
I just don't want to see Ipswich win against United tonight.
No. It's going to be a nervy watch tonight, as we thought we were past stuff like this. But last night, like I said to you, coming out the grass, it was a bit of a reality check for Wolves, didn't it? So, but we're going to enjoy this weekend because it's a cup game, so there isn't that bit of apprehension around it almost, I don't think.
Yeah, a bit less pressure.
Yeah, you're not looking at other teams' results, you're looking at solely your own. So let's hope that when we come back, we're smiling because Wolves have got their place in the quarter-final. But we're not going to hold up too much hope.
No, not at all. I'm going to ask you for your score prediction shortly, but mine, I'm going to say 3-1 to Bournemouth. I just think they're going to not take us as easily this time. I think they're going to take us more seriously, having beat them, and they're not going to make the same stupid mistakes they did last time. What's your score prediction for this one?
Yeah, I'm going to echo my thoughts from earlier. I think 2-1 Bournemouth is the way I'm going to go. I think we'll nick a goal through some Cunha magic or something again. But ultimately, I think Bournemouth will prove too strong for us on Saturday.
Yep. Well, let's hope that Ipswich lose to United. For most of our listeners, I'm sure this match will have already happened by the time you're listening, and we may be either elated or much more upset, depending on that. But you can hear from us next week on how we feel after the Bournemouth game and about whatever result Ipswich get, as we will leave you here. Thank you for listening. This has been the South Bank Podcast. I've been your host today, Cameron Gorman. I've been joined by Jacob Jones. And thank you for listening, and we'll see you next week.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
The voice of a new generation. This is Kick Radio.